So, what happens when the caregiver and community leader needs care? Well, that's what happened with my guest. This midlifer found herself on a cancer journey. That's after emptying her nest and going through a divorce. We're going to talk about how our guest, Miss Deborah Lewis Fagan, went along her journey to healthy recovery to become a magnificent community leader and remaking her midlife. I am your host, Tisha Curry, and welcome to the Midlife Makeover Movement. Here, this is a podcast dedicated to resilient women like you who are navigating the transformative journey. I am your host, Tisha Mitchell, your midlife makeover maven, and I am thrilled to bring you yet another story. Miss Deborah Lewis Fagan, thank you so much for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, good evening, Tisha, and I thank you for this opportunity to share a little insight about my journey. A little bit about myself. I was born and raised in a rural area in the natural state of Arkansas. Born, raised, and educated, as they would like to say, and knew early into my graduate school program that I wanted to experience and see other parts of the United States and the world. So I left Arkansas in 1986, I believe, and spent a couple years in Texas, and then landed here in the Peach State of Georgia. I'm an only child. Both of my parents are deceased, and I have one beautiful daughter, Lindsay, and two precious grandchildren. Lola, who is 5, and my mom name was Riola, so I love the name of Lola. And then Marshall, who is 4, and they are truly the heartbeats of my life. I love my daughter, but I cannot even describe the love that I have for my grandchildren. And so that's a little bit about myself.
That is fabulous. So, along your journey, your midlife journey, you found yourself in a divorce. You have one daughter, you found yourself in a divorce. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Um, I found myself, what is that word? Entangled, if you would, in a nasty divorce in 2010. I like to reflect upon that, and I compare it to the Kardashians. You would have thought we were the Kardashians as much as we were in and out of the divorce court system. Um, the divorce was, let me say, the occurrence was not a surprise. Well, there were some differences in our beliefs and lifestyles. Uh, the process of the divorce was really unsettling. At one point in my life, I said that the divorce was harder on me mentally than burying both of my parents. That's how taxing it was. So the divorce was finalized in 2010 after probably a year or so in the court system. Um, it was not nice. We spent time haggling over material things that I was not attached to, but for whatever reason, it became a source of contention between the two of us. What bothered me the most about this divorce was that my child, my only child, was put in the middle, and there was this tug of war in regards to um, her feelings, her feelings about me, her dad. It was really rough, and thank the Lord we got through it with a lot of counseling and prayer, and we were able to see the other side of it. But during that process, it was really tough. At one point in that journey, the divorce journey, um, I considered myself a widow because he was, in my mind, he was dead to me. And that sounds a little harsh, but it was a coping mechanism because there was so much hurt and pain there that I could not fathom, you know, even dealing with those type of emotions. So it was easier to put them away. But
Wow.
I'm on the other side of that now. There is power.
I want to pause right here. There's a couple of things I want to ask you.
Okay.
The first is, how long were you married?
Uh, we were married 10 years. We had lived together, cohabitated for probably about 2 years before that.
Okay. And how old was your daughter at this time?
During the divorce, my daughter was around 11 or 12, maybe even 13. She was in middle school.
Okay. Got it. Okay. And I want to pack up. I got to back up. You said you saw yourself as a widow. That is an interesting perspective. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because sometimes when we're going through something, we have to learn to compartmentalize, and it sounds like that's what you did. Why did you choose to do it that way, or was it even conscious?
It wasn't even conscious. I think it was subconscious because uh it was a coping mechanism for me. Um to have to say, well, yes, I'm recently divorced, or yes, I'm a divorcee. That was tough for me. Uh, so in my mind, to have the perception, well, you know, I'm a widow. I am by myself. There is not another person that I have to deal with anymore. Was easier
Mm,
to deal with.
wow, that's interesting. So, and you know what? One of the things I can appreciate about you is you saying that. And many of our audience members, or maybe none of them, know that I have been going through a divorce for a very, 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 very long time. And to hear you say how painful it was, that it was more difficult than burying your parents, it really does make me feel a little bit better, because I've felt a pain that I've never experienced before, that it seems like nobody really understood until you put that language there. I totally felt that down in my soul. So thank you for sharing that.
You're absolutely welcome.
So you've got a preteen now and you're a single mom. What was the transition like for you, coming out of that situation, and kind of what things did you do to kind of bring some balance back into your life?
Oh, that was a valley initially. A preteen daughter that felt like her dad walked on water.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the term girl dad, it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't around then, but that's how I can describe their relationship. Um, there was moments where I was not appreciated because of, again, mixed feelings, different influences. There was times where I was disrespected,
Mm-hmm.
um, just for the mere fact of my child was emotionally torn and lashed out. Um, and that was painful. Um, I had a couple of friends that knew her from the moment she was on this earth, and they would, try to console me and said, this is something she's going through emotionally, it'll pass. But it felt like a lifetime to me because here I am. I'm an only child. I have one blood family, a daughter, a child that is angry at me for reasons that she do not understand, and was, being rebellious, lashing out. And so that was a low point. Um, it was through the grace of counseling and a lot of prayer. Um, when I was going through that period, one weekend, because we had the parental visitation area of the weekend. So one weekend when she was with her dad, I went to church, and I'm from the Southern Baptist Church, where and this church is an older traditional church where they have altar call, which is you go up for prayer. And I did, and standing in the middle of the other parishioners, and one of the female ministers came over and touched my head and prayed for me and said, it's going to be all right. She is your daughter. And I was like, I went back to my seat and I was like, Lord, I don't know what just happened, but this lady had no clue she didn't know me from Adam, never had a conversation or anything. And at that point, I knew that this this storm that I was going through, I had the faith that it was not going to last forever. But it was tough. I described that situation. I used to call my daughter, I said she was the poster child for parental alienation.
Oh,
And for
wow.
women who have went through a divorce with children in the middle, uh, if you don't know or have not heard about parental alienation, please look it up because it is real.
Do you mind touching a little bit on what that is and how that experience was for you? What was that exactly?
Ooh. What is parental alienation? That is when one parent um, influences the child or children to alienate themselves from the other parent. Uh, and that is done through different verbal, nonverbal actions, misconduct in school, just all type of actions that are put into motion because the child has been influenced that they should alienate themselves from the other parent.
Wow. That had to be very difficult, right? So I was speaking on a panel just the last 2 weeks actually about, it's complicated, the relationship between mothers and daughters. So I can't imagine, I just listened to you talk about how painful it was for your divorce. And even when it was over, it wasn't finished because now you've got this whole separate pain with your daughter. And not to fast forward, but I saw a picture of you and her not that long ago where you were hugging and you were, very proud of her and you were giving her some flowers. So, what kinds of things happened that kind of helped you restore that relationship?
Um, so there was a lot of therapy, both voluntary and involuntary, for her and myself. Um, and it was very helpful. And I think that started the journey to the recovery and healing. Um, she would see a counselor I think it was like a weekly basis, from when middle school to high school. And that helped lay the groundwork for understanding what was happening. It helped her, and it also helped me because I could see the change in her thought processes. And it was always my prayer that, Lord, help her to understand the difference. And so with therapy, she was able to see the difference, some of the smoke screens. She was able to see some of the half truths in regards to what was going on around her. And that, again, the therapy laid that groundwork. Um, I think also me understanding, doing a lot of reading and research about divorce, the impact on children, parental alienation, just diving into some evidence-based information helped me to better cope and understand some of the things that we were going through. To fast forward, when she her first year in college, her first year away from home, if you would, she was able to see the difference in what me being there or being in my household versus 3 hours away. And yes, you have money, but you're not for sure what you need to do, and you need to manage your day. She saw the difference of me not being there, and I think that led to a greater appreciation of what she meant to me and what I had poured into her.
Wow. That's huge. I'm so glad that you were able to get to this space. So you are a single mom now. You're a career woman. What do you do for a living?
So I am a registered nurse. I have my master's in gerontology as a gerontology clinical nurse specialist. I love my old folks. So I've been working in the managed care industry, um, i.e. insurance companies like Kaiser, Blue Cross Blue Shield. So I work as the director for Medicare case management, leading a team of nurse case managers, social workers, and admin staff uh, in across the state, ensuring that they provide support for Medicare, Medicaid beneficiaries.
Wow, that's remarkable. So we got this divorce journey. You've got a preteen. You're working through this to get her out of high school, and you have an empty nest. You've made it to the other side, and then you get a diagnosis. Let's talk about that.
Ooh, my journey with that diagnosis started July of 2017. Um, Normally, I have my annual mammograms in February around my birthday this month. However, due to my commitment to work, and I use air quotes, I decided that, I was going to delay it a couple of months. So doing that meant that, as you are trying to schedule, you can't get a mammogram within the next 2 weeks or 30 days. There's a wait. So I ended up being rescheduled to July. So I went in July for my mammogram, and just routine, I thought. And after the mammogram, they ask you to wait to see if you need to do anything different. Well, this time I was asked to wait, and the radiology technician came out and said, well, the radiologist would like for you to do an ultrasound. She said there was something that we were not sure, but we just want to do an ultrasound. So being the nurse that I am, I'm like, okay, I got some density, in my breast. When there's you have large breasts, or even in African American women, just density that you can't see things good. So I was like, okay, I'll stay for the ultrasound. So we did that, and she said that the results would be in my chart online. And so it was at that point I was like, I wonder, is this a routine or is this something different? Again, being a nurse that I am, I'm looking, I gave about 48 hours, and I looked online, and the ultrasound results was there. And it didn't say cancer. It just described the lump or tissue that was displayed. And that description hit me immediately, because what they described, I knew immediately it was cancerous, just from the description. And so I didn't have a meltdown, but I was like, okay, I'm going to say that, I'm going to misinterpret this, and we'll see when I go to the doctor. Well, I went to my PCP, and she said, yeah, we need to follow up. We're going to do a biopsy on that lump that they found. So she scheduled me with the surgeon, and I went that same week to the surgeon and did the biopsy. It was in her office, outpatient. A week later, I went back for the results. My dear friend, my sister from another mother, Betty, went with me, and we were in the room waiting for the surgeon to come in. So she comes in, and she says, well, your results are back. And then all I heard was the C word. And the C word was is cancerous. And so she proceeds to, explain that, it looks like it's small. Don't fret. We're going to schedule you for surgery. She said it's small enough that we're going to do a lumpectomy. No mastectomy, anything. And I'm hearing this, but I'm not hearing this because the waterworks is going, and I'm like, oh Lord, what, just all the negativity. And Betty's sitting in the corner trying to be brave, but I'm seeing the water swell up in her eyes, but nothing's dropping. So I took a deep breath and said, okay, let me know when we need to schedule it, and I'll make preparations. Um, here's the tough part for me. Um, so we were scheduling all of the surgeries and everything. I get a message from my vice president, and we're professionals. We done some social hours and everything, and she said, "Well, I'm coming to Georgia. Can you meet me for lunch?" She said, "Meet me at Starbucks." I said, "Okay." So I met her at Starbucks. And when I pull up, I see the vice president of HR, who, again, we travel together and everything. So I walk over and greet them, and didn't get a good feeling at that point. Uh, and I think it was the HR vice president, or I can't even remember. But they proceeded to tell me that my position would be eliminated at the end of the month, and that I would get a severance package, but my insurance would be discontinued, and that I would be eligible for Cobra. Uh, I I lost it because
Pause.
yes,
How long is this time period from the time that you got your diagnosis to you had this meeting with your boss and HR?
it was a matter of days.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, it was days.
Okay, so let's pause for a second. So you have this mammogram. I mean, you're a little behind, but it's not like you've gone an extended period of time, right? It's been a few
Right,
months, not years.
right.
And then you're getting called in for more tests, and this is going quickly, and they're assuring you that you're going to this lumpectomy should do it, and you thinking you're a nurse, right? So you
Right.
know all of the horror stories or how far this can go, right? It's different.
Hmm.
It's you.
Right.
On top of this, within a couple of days, you find out that you're losing your job and your insurance.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Um, and that was my focus when in talking with them. They were talking about the severance, and I'm like, ladies, I've been on both sides of this fence. You're right. I know how things work. I said, but both of you are aware of the diagnosis, because I had to put in for FMLA and everything. Both of you are aware of what just happened a few days ago, and to come to Georgia to tell me my position is being eliminated is one thing, but oh, by the way, your insurance will also discontinue at the end of the month, and you can apply for Cobra. I was like, that's a bit much.
But
And
they did, I'm sorry. Did they know your diagnosis at that time? Had you had the opportunity to tell them what was going on yet?
they knew, yes,
Oh,
they knew that I had been diagnosed with breast cancer. Didn't know like the surgery plans or nothing like that, but that I had been diagnosed. Yes.
okay.
Um, so um, we talked through some of the Cobra stuff, because again, I wasn't worried about the money. It was more of insurance. I am about to undergo major surgery, and possibly, like you said, chemo, radiation, all that to come afterwards. And you're telling me I'm about to be without insurance. And it really bothered me that I had made the sacrifice, that I put off getting the mammogram because we were undergoing some stuff at work. And so I was being the loyal employee. And here am I now, you're saying, oh, but sorry, but you're getting a package, but your insurance is on you. And it was at that moment that I shifted. I was able to politely think thanked them for coming to speak with me in person, and I bid them farewell. But it was at that moment for me that I knew I had to focus on me, because they didn't care. Not that they didn't care, but they didn't care.
Right.
And I knew that I needed to be able to take care of myself. And it was that moment that I feel like my recovery started.
Wow. Let's talk about that. What happened next? You said at that moment your recovery started. What did you start recovering from? I mean, I know that you have, your diagnosis, but it sounds to me like that recovery was larger than the sickness. So can we talk a little bit about that?
There's this phrase that self-care is health care. And I truly believe that. And it was at that moment that I vowed to take care of myself mentally and physically. Um, I put some things in motion legally in regards to the situation with the insurance. I started making plans in regards to my surgery, and also just for my family, making sure that they knew what they needed to know. I was hesitant to be totally transparent with my daughter. She's still young, she's in college. But I was able, with a lot of convincing, able to share some things with her so that in case something happened, she would know. She would know my wishes and all of that. So again, that was my road to recovery, trying to focus on what needed to happen for me in the here and now, as well as the future.
Wow. How did that how did that change your perspective on work and life? Before we go there, how long was that process? How long was the treatment process for you?
The treatment process was relatively short. So I had surgery 1 week. The following week, I went back and we looked at the biopsy results and everything, and she determined that my cancer was estrogen positive, meaning that it was caused by an overload of estrogen, abnormal cells that mutated, etc. And so with that, the course of treatment was not chemo, but radiation.
Mhm.
So after surgery, I went back to her office. We looked at the results and everything, and she prepared me for radiation, which was inserting these tubes in my breast. And so maybe a week after that, it might even not have been that long, I started radiation. Uh, I think they call it memo pack or something. I went twice a day for 10 days,
Wow.
in the morning and the afternoon. Just a full onslaught of radiation into my breast. And I think I did that for about 10 days. The course of treatment in its entirety was probably about 2 weeks.
Okay. Okay. So what did you do about work? Were you just off for a while? How did you manage the insurance situation? What did you do to get you through that process?
So part of the agreement was that I would remain on the payroll as if I was working. And
Mm.
so we did that for about 3 months while I basically went through my medical recovery, and the radiation treatment. Um, and it was, again, about 3 months we did that, and it was if I was getting paid but not working, and so that was fine with me. We also came to an agreement in regards to the insurance, so that coverage was reinstated. And
Good.
so I was able to have some relief in regards to the medical coverage and everything, and able to sit back and really give my body a chance to heal. And I think maybe after the maybe at the 4th or 5th month, maybe 6th month mark, I started looking for future opportunities for employment.
Wow. So, what shifted as far as your values, your mindset, future focus? What shifted during that 6-month period?
We in healthcare circle, we talk about, how things have changed. In corporate America, there's no loyalty anymore. It used to be, and if you made 25 years, you got stock in the company. And now we joke, it's like, oh, you get a little badge or you get an Amazon gift card. So it really hit home that the work environment had changed, and that whatever I would look to do in the future, I would make sure that I put myself first in regards to my care and work-life balance. Still working on the work-life balance, but as far as my health care, that at that time, I was like, I will never sacrifice my health care for work.
So, you are looking fabulous lately. And I mention that all the time when I see you. It looks like, I mean, you decided you after this, we're also going to go on a different health journey. So you want to talk to us a little bit about that as well?
Sure. The cancer diagnosis was part of that shift. Again, my cancer diagnosis was estrogen positive, the cancer tumor, and being postmenopausal at that time. Clinically, it meant that there was still a lot of estrogen in my body, but I'm postmenopausal, and not having a cycle, so stuff is just building up. And I was also, per the clinical guidelines, I was overweight. So those were factors based upon some research and talking with my oncologist. Those were risk factors that increased my chance of breast cancer. So I knew I had to make a lifestyle change in regards to my eating habits and exercise. And that was a long journey. I started immediately in 2017 after the surgery and everything, looking at my nutrition. Um, Even with radiation, chemo radiation, you lose your appetite. So I started making some changes in my eating habits, incorporated a little activity in regards to, walking, but knew that to maintain or decrease the risk of the cancer returning, I had to get some of that weight off. And particularly with females, when you postmenopausal, you get that midsection, to get that, as we call it, the love handle right in the midsection, that it increases your risk for cancer, diabetes, and a whole lot of other chronic conditions. So again, I knew that I had to lose some weight. Tried a whole lot of things, and some worked for a short period and some didn't. And it has been 17, it took me probably 4 years to get to a place where I was able to lose a significant amount of weight to get back to my ideal body weight. A lot of help along the way, exercise, a personal trainer, what do they call that? Not the prepackaged meals, but the prep meals. Doing everything I could to try to bring healthy nutrition into my lifestyle. And again, it was a up and down cycle, but after a few years, I was able to get to a place where I was able to understand what would contribute to my weight gain versus what would help me maintain and stabilize, as well as exercise. It doesn't, I was not a person that I went to the gym every day, but I would, increase my steps up and down the stairs or walk around the block. And those things is what helped me make the shift in regards to my weight.
Wow, baby steps. Wow, that's fantastic. I want to piggyback, just go back to the job thing. You said about 6 months, you decided and you were going to look for another opportunity. From that experience, what changed about what you required from an employer or what you were looking for in your next opportunity?
We all have this checklist and in regards to what we look for in job opportunities. I think for me, and historically, it's been about the green stuff, the money. I didn't look at that as a top priority anymore. It was more so of the work-life balance, the culture. You always see one thing, but then when you get there, it's differently. So I made sure that I had a true understanding of the culture. I would talk with individuals that was previously employee as well as current. And I did that all as part of my screening process whenever there was an interview that I felt like we were getting to the offer stage. So it shifted from the money to more of benefits and culture as top priorities.
I love it. I was hoping you would say that. I'm so glad. So glad. So, one of the things we haven't touched on is you are a community leader, and we'll let you talk a little bit about those. But at the time that you were going through your health scare, were you also in leadership? Were you as actively involved civically then as you are now?
Um, I don't think I was as actively involved. I will share this though. When I was going through the valleys of the divorce, one of my sorority sisters, would call and we would chat. And one day she was like, "Oh no, you got to get off that couch. You got to get up." And so she invited me out, and that's how I became uh, reactivated and reengaged with Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Um, and I will never forget that. But as far as in that time in 2017, I did have a leadership role in my sorority, and it was very fulfilling. uh, I was able to, I probably came back and jumped in the saddle quicker than I should in regards to being active in my sorority, but I did, and because it was again fulfilling, but was not as active in the other organizations as I am at this current time.
Mm. So for you on your healing journey, how did having those sister relationships have an impact? You mentioned that your sorority sister said, "Okay, you got to get off the couch." Was it talk about how that was integrated in your healing journey?
Okay. Um, so I am a member of three organizations. Um, I won't name them, but they are all unique and distinct in their own way. But there are three principles that are consistent across all three, and that being advocacy, community service, and giving back, friendship, and sisterhood. Those are interwoven in all three of the organizations that I'm a member of. And each one of them have helped me along the way in regards to understanding the importance of friendship and sisterhood, um, because it takes a village. I am an introvert. Most people say, I don't think that's true, but at my heart, I am an introvert and I have a small circle. So to know me is to understand me. And I have friends in each of those organizations that understand me, and their friendship and their understanding of what I was going through, when I needed space, or when I needed to be pulled out of the house, or when I needed to just be told, let it go. Each of those organizations provided friends, I would say friends and sisters, that helped me through those different processes.
I imagine having been an only child with both of your parents being deceased and you having an empty nest, that those sister friend relationships were very impactful and very helpful for you through your healing journey. So one question I have, how do you balance your leadership roles with your personal life and self-care?
Oh, that's a three-part question, Tisha. So let me try to address it. How do I balance that? I will first say each organization, as I previously mentioned, is unique in its own way, and each requires different things of me. Some require leadership, some require being a wingman, a team player. So there's different things that I bring or that is needed for each organization that's not all encompassing. It's not like I need to be a leader front and center in each of the organizations. There are different roles that is a good fit for where I'm at this point in my life. And even then, um, so that helps that there is not this onslaught of that I have to take on a leadership role in each of them at the same time.
Mm. So
Um,
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you
No,
I asked you a bunch of different questions. We were talking about self-care and your personal life, and it's because that you're able to kind of spread the love in those different organizations. How do you prioritize you right now?
oh, that's a loaded question. It's a challenge. I I make it an effort to on a daily basis at the start of my day and at the end of my day to write down some type of uh, gratitude note, what I'm thankful for, what I'm blessed, uh, what even what I'm looking to be in prayer about, and that helps me with some of the balance. Um, as far as the self care, I'm a work in progress with that. I do know the importance, and I incorporate self care, probably not to the 50-50 balance, but my body tells me when I need to take a break. And I have learned to listen to my body when it says, okay, it's time to shut down. Uh, and that is making me more in tune. When I feel like I'm tired, in the past, I would like push through Red
Mm.
Bull, something.
Wow,
Uh, Now it's like, okay, I'm tired. Let me get a bottle of water and relax.
got it. So for the women who have gone through, like you have gone through not just one major life transition, not just two, like you have gone through a lot of life transition. What are some of the lessons that you've learned about resilience and just self-discovery through your experiences? You had
Uh,
to manage some tough things without a lot of natural support.
I would say resilience, and this is not tongue in cheek, but resilience is part of being a Black woman. It's
Mm.
part of our DNA. Not wearing the cape and being a superwoman, but being able to dig in and be resilient in tough times, I think is way we are built per se. Um, and I've learned that you do pick up resilience as part of your growth process. But again, I think it's inherent in how we are raised, what we're taught, and what we see around us. Even in different environments, whether it's rural or city or suburbs, there is always resilient Black women that you can identify with, that you see, that you may consciously or unconsciously say, oh, yeah, that's how you do it. And I saw that as a young woman growing up. Um, my mom had a third grade education, not third grade, 11th grade education. She didn't finish high school. Yet I saw her be resilient and become a figure in the community. I saw her work in a garment factory and then push through some health issues to make sure I got to college. And it was that resilience that I saw her exhibit that I thought, okay, Deborah, there's you got to replicate that. If it's not there in you naturally, that is something that you have to replicate. And I think again, as Black women, we see those ladies in our lives and in our communities, and it just becomes part of what we embrace.
I love it. Miss Deborah, what legacy do you hope to leave through your leadership and community service?
That was one of the items that I've thought about, Tisha. The legacy that I want to leave is one of humility, that, being humble, regardless of what you're able to achieve, your credentials, your life status, be humble in your journey, because things can change at the twinkling of an eye. And if you're humble, you'll always have respect for where you came from and where you might end up. And I want to be able to share that legacy of being humble while also being a leader. When you think of a leader, most of the time you think of someone that is pompous, arrogant, and got wearing this whatever on their shoulders and designer this and that. And that does not have to be. So I'm prayerful that my legacy will be one of humility and of being a servant leader that understands the needs of and the means of giving back.
Deborah, I would describe you as a quiet giant. You are the one that is quiet in the back, but every time I turn around, there's an announcement that's something that you've accomplished or something that you've led, and you do that with humility, and you have a quiet grace and beauty about you that you really just light up a room just by your very presence when you come in. And I'm happy to know you. One of the things that I would like to kind of leave with finally is, what message of hope and encouragement would you share with our listeners who may be facing their own midlife challenges? Either one of those that you've described or even all of them. It really is up to you. What would you say to a woman who's really kind of down, feeling in a dark space because of the things that you have overcome?
I'm reminded of the gospel song, and there's a phrase that trouble doesn't last always.
Mhm.
Um, we have to truly understand that everything happens and there is a reason that they happen. We may not understand it. We may not ever understand it, but there is a reason that it happens. And that period of trouble, whether it's with your spouse, ex-spouse, children, family members, it is a phase. And I like to think of, there's this book called The Dash.
Mhm.
There are dashes in our life, even if it's just for a short season or a year or whatever. uh Whatever you're experiencing, know that trouble doesn't last always, that there is a rainbow on the other side for you, and that you have to be steadfast in your faith, in your prayer, your belief that you're here for a purpose, and that This may be a test that doesn't feel good, but again, trouble doesn't last always. And that you as a woman, we have these characteristics, these genes that help us get through those tough times. I would encourage you to look inward as well. Look deep inside yourself and say, I'm here. I'm here for a reason, and that you can get through it.
I love it. I love it. If you were to leave a message to your granddaughters in this particular space, what message would you want to leave with them?
Be true to yourself. Dance like no one else is looking. And enjoy what life has to offer. Being true to yourself may not lead to good things all the time, but it's the lesson that is learned in that process. And I would say, use those experiences to make life what you want it to be.
I love it. I think that will close us out. Miss Deborah Lewis Fagans, one remarkable overcomer, resilient, strong, humble, beautiful. I thank you so much for taking this time to spend with me, and your journey is one that will help so many women just because you got back up. Thank you, my sister. I am Tisha Mitchell, your midlife makeover maven, and this is the Midlife Makeover Movement. Thank you, Miss Deborah Fagans. I appreciate you.
Thank you for letting me share my story, and have a good evening.
You're welcome.